All right. Zachary, I will have you introduce yourself. Let us know where you are currently working at and how you got there.
Yes, my name is Zachary Nauert. I am the head strength and conditioning coordinator here at Mound West Tonka High School, located on the west side of Lake Minnetonka. I spent 2 years at University of Illinois Chicago, where I got my undergrad in kinesiology. From there, I interned with a private sports performance facility at TC Boost Sports Performance in Northbrook, Illinois. And then spent about 3-4 years. They hired me on there, and so I spent 3 years training, working with professional all the way down to 7-8 year olds. So running the gamut of age development training. And so spent my time there as well as working inside two high schools back in Illinois, Evanston Township High School and then Glenbrook North High School through TC Boost. And then that's where I learned where I wanted to go. I didn't really enjoy everything about the private sector. There are definitely things I loved and enjoyed, but then really learned that I love the high school sector. And so from there, I went and got my master's in teaching. That helped me get my foot in the door into high schools as a strength coach, and then just applied to schools up here in Minnesota. And Mount West Tonka was looking for a PE/health teacher with the added part of the job of being a head strength and conditioning coach for the whole program. So that's exactly what I was looking for. That was my dream job, and applied and I got it. So
And here you are.
here I am.
For students who are considering either exercise science or kinesiology, so for instance, at Concordia, they can get a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science. Strength and conditioning is certainly one of the avenues. Did you know that that's what you wanted right away, or did it take you a few forks in the road?
Oh, it took me a few. I mean, I even started out thinking I was going to be a firefighter. That didn't turn out so well, but I went into kinesiology with the focus on exercise science and health promotion. And then I always thought I was going to be a physical therapist. I mean, that's what I thought the road was. That's what everyone in my program at UIC was doing. And did a couple internships as a PT, and then quickly learned that's not what I wanted to do. Just couldn't get on board with those hours, as well as just kind of the same thing over and over and over again. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll try strength and conditioning, and did one internship, and boom, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So definitely didn't know it right away. It actually took an experience to learn that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I would tell any future kines students, graduates: go shadow PTs, OTs, PAs. I mean, all run the gamut. See what it's like before making that decision.
That's some good advice. Yes, you save yourself maybe a little bit of heartache, right? And
And
maybe
money.
and 4 more years of school. Yeah, yeah. So speaking of not wanting to do the same old every day, talk us through a typical day and or season, because you definitely have ebbs and flows with the season being at a high school. So
Totally.
you come in the door. What does it look like for you?
Yeah. So every day is different. Some days I train teams before school. Some days I don't. Every day for me, I either train someone before school in terms of a full team, and then I teach all day. So I will do PE teaching or health teaching across the whole day, and then at 3 o'clock class ends, and 3:15 strength and conditioning begins. And so right at 3:15, I'm working with multiple teams. I'm blessed here from our athletic director that it is mandatory every team in season trains with me twice a week. And so every day it's a different team, or multiple teams, should I say, 30-minute blocks. So yeah, I get each team for 30 minutes, and then boom, another team's walking in the door. Some days we have our off-season kids, so kids who have chosen not to play a sport in that season. And I go from 3:15 all the way to 5:15. Some days I go till 6. It just depends on their practice schedule, their game schedules. Sometimes a coach may just ask, hey, are you willing to stay a little bit later? Can we start at 5:30? We'll go till 6. And I'm more than willing to do that. So, and then that's not including home games. If there's home games that night, I may be staying here site supervising, or even just staying and supporting our athletes, because we all know that relationships are what drive intent and drive kids wanting to be in the weight room. So I'll sometimes be here till 10 p.m. at night watching our athletes perform on the court or on the field, on the ice, whatever it may be. And so that's generally a day, Monday through Friday for me. Season-wise, real quick, it's just fall is not as many teams. So there are some, days where during the fall I kind of get off a little bit earlier. I may not have teams till 5:15, may be able to go home. There's also the break between fall and winter sports. So those couple weeks, again, I get to kind of go home a little bit earlier, kind of recharge the battery and prepare for the next season. Winter, oh man, it's a grind. We have so many winter teams, so I'm here till 6 almost every day. And then the spring kind of dips back down. Not as many teams. There may be a couple days each week where I may be staying here a little bit later, but typically I'm done around by 5:15 or a little bit earlier. And then 1 week later, we start summer training, and we go Monday through Thursday, 9 weeks in the summer, from 8 a.m. to 2:30. And that's my schedule. So I do get a 3-day weekend in the summer, and 1 week off for 4th of July week. But yeah, that's kind of a season. It's up and down. So I'd say my busiest is the summer and the winter.
Okay. How might that look different if somebody were thinking about strength and conditioning at a college or professional?
Yeah. So typically for college, it depends on the teams and what teams you're training. So the college realm, you may only be assigned one team. You may be assigned 3 teams. If you're at a Division III level, you're assigned all of them, kind of like what I'm doing at a high school or at a D2 level. So for there, it's a little bit different in the sense that usually those athletes are training early mornings, midday. They're not really training evenings typically because that's when their practices and games are. So your days are a little bit shorter. They're usually a little bit earlier though. I know like for football, especially, you're starting at 5 a.m. and you got to get there before 5 a.m. and prepare the weight room. So it's early mornings, but you're kind of off by 2 or 3. And it all changes from college to college. But that's typically what you're looking at, and you're just training teams. Don't get me wrong, you're programming, you're setting up weight room, you're taking weight room down, cleaning it up, having meetings with collegiate staff and the sports staff, which I do here, just not as many meetings. I may have 1 or 2 meetings because I'm seeing them every day and it's more talking. But the college route, you're having meetings with coaches weekly, going over data, what you're looking at, what you're seeing. And then in the private sector, it's basically if you're working, you're working. If you're not, you're not. And so with the private sector life, doing that for 3 years, it was kind of like your hours were up and down and all over the place. You can basically create your own schedule and train when you want, as much as you want. And so that's awesome. A lot of people may like that, but there's also a downside to it where it's basically if you're not training someone, you're not getting paid. So there's that kind of piece to it. But private sector, you're at the mercy of the client. So if they want to train at 4 a.m., you're training at 4 a.m. If they want to train at 9 p.m. at night, you're training at 9 p.m. at night. And that was another hard part, is it was early mornings, very late nights in the private sector because that's when people are free. So the middle of your day as a private sector strength coach is pretty laid back, not as much going on.
Right. Yeah. More of a split shift.
Yep.
Would you say at the high school level, so now thinking not necessarily hours, but autonomy wise, and this may look different for everybody as well, but high school compared to college, you said you're doing your own programming. Are you getting to have 100% input, 80% input? Obviously, it depends on what the coaches come in with their own experiences and how much they really believe in it too, right? But like,
right.
what might some different scenarios look like for somebody, would you potentially could be implementing somebody else's programming?
Yeah. So it depends on if you're the head strength coach and if you're an assistant at a high school. You don't see that as much unless you're at a big high school. But typically I have full autonomy. I mean, I can have the athletes do whatever I think they need. don't get me wrong, when I have those meetings before each season, I talk with coaches and say, hey, what are some things you're looking for? You know, and then we have that conversation, and we have that conversation of, you know, if you want to add this, what are we taking out? Because we only have X amount of time. We can't just keep adding.
Right.
And there was one coach I remember working with back in Illinois, baseball coaches just wanted to add and add and add. And we were talking and always saying, hey, what do you want to take out? 'Cause all of us can't fit. So as an assistant strength coach working with Steve in Glenbrook at Glenbrook North, yeah, there wasn't as much autonomy. He wrote the programming, and I, you know, looked at the program and made sure everyone was doing it exactly how Steve wanted it. Here, I have full autonomy. My athletic director does hands off, and I can pretty much do whatever I want as a head strength coach in terms of their athletic development, which is really, really nice. You may not get that everywhere, especially at the college realm, unless, again, you get to that head job.
Mm-hmm.
But typically in the high school realm, you're just having a conversation with coaches, but our coaching staff trust me. They believe in my experience and what I'm doing for their athletes. And I always have a why. And so I don't really get many pushbacks or questions because I can back it with the reasons why I want to do these certain things and show evidence.
Right.
And I make sure I have that ready to go. So
yeah,
a lot of autonomy.
Good. And speaking of having some evidence and having some data, what are some of the go-tos that you use for, you know, learning, research regarding different types of trainings, and like what are you finding as trends the last few years, or are there people in the industry that you subscribe to and listen to and you know, experiment a little bit with, or what? Yeah, where are you getting your information to be able to keep yourself fresh?
Totally. So I still go back to my background at the end of the day, what I learned at UIC in my undergrad. My CSCS certification, you know, going through the NSCA's textbook. Again, that's like square one, that's base. I always come back to that. But in terms of other training methodologies that I use bits and pieces of triphasic training from Cal Dietz over at the University of Minnesota. Research a lot on Joe Kent's tier system. I use that in terms of my programming and how I set up a flow of the weight room. Wendler's 531, we kind of mix that in during our strength phase, as well as APRE. Another simple methodology that we use here with our athletes. I am a chameleon. I truly do not believe there's one best program out there, and if so, we'd all be doing it, plain and simple.
Right.
I think every methodology out there has a positive influence on results for athletes. And again, it's more reading the research and seeing where it'll fit in a high school realm with an 8th grader versus a senior. And just kind of taking pieces out and seeing if it fits. That's kind of how I do it. I constantly read the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, being an NSCA member. I get those research textbooks all the time. I have it here sitting right here on my bookshelf. I do follow a lot of what Zach DeCant is doing down in TCU with our baseball players. I love what he's doing. He believes in movement and speed development, which is my background. So I read everything I can. I read as much as I can, but it doesn't mean I apply all of the textbook or all of that methodology. I read about it. I read the research, and then I see how it can fit, or what pieces did I like in that research that might add value for our athletes. But we also have to remember at the high school realm, simply just doing the basics for them is what they honestly need, right? That really diving into all the ins and outs and the crazy research behind all evidence is well and great, but that is more applied in that college and that advanced training scenario where they're also following a true periodization program, right? They have a true off season, they have a true in season and a true postseason. Here with kids that are multi-sport athletes, I don't have that. So you got to be creative as much as you can, and don't lose sight in remembering that these are still high school athletes, that these kids still need to know the basics and how to do them right, so they can go off and do those advanced techniques and methodologies when they get to the collegiate level or the professional level.
Right. Yep. Very well said. Yeah. What is something that, so you learned that, okay, my students need to understand how to squat and do a proper bench press and how to properly carry themselves and lift weight, right? Like you got to start there. But you had to learn that through experience. So what is something else that you've learned, either positive or negative, that nobody told you about and you stumbled upon it either in a good way or in a way that you wish maybe like, oof, all right. That's one to reflect on.
Yeah, so I thought about this one a lot. To be honest, the biggest thing I learned, and you knew it kind of going into working with anybody as a coach, right? It's all built on relationship, right? But when you're coming out of a kinesiology program or your undergrad and you're reading all these methodologies, you get it. Even I did it. Hey, why aren't we trying this? Why aren't we trying this? You know, you're asking, hey, I like this methodology. I like the conjugate method. You know, why aren't we doing this? And I quickly learned that, again, there is no best program, right? I didn't know that. Like, I thought that, like, you read a book, you're like, oh, this is it. And it's like, is it? It's great. And there's a lot of research and evidence behind it. But the biggest thing is relationships. I didn't realize how much it mattered until I really got into it and training. And if you build strong relationships, it doesn't matter what program you do with them, because they're going to want to come back each and every day and train. Mm-hmm. And that's the real goal. The number one factor for any program to be great and yield results is consistency. And if they don't trust you or believe in your program or enjoy just coming into the weight room and training with you, it doesn't matter what program you put on the board, because they're not even going to be there. Right. And so I quickly learned, like, just having fun and building those relationships, having a dance party in the weight room once in a while can go a long way in their actual athletic development, not in terms of like the movement piece, but just building that consistency piece. And we all know if you did push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups every single day, you'd get stronger. So really what it comes down to is, are you willing to build those relationships, be a people person, not be shy? I think that is one thing I see a lot of young strength coaches struggle with, is being shy and not having a big voice and just having fun with athletes. They're a little bit more reserved. You can't be that way. Kids don't feed off that. They want to know that you trust them and that you can relate to them. And if you do that, you're golden. I mean, they'll be in there every single day, and it doesn't matter what program you do. Some programs you write are going to be bad. And I learned that really quickly too. I still look at the program I wrote last week and say, that was horrible, could do better. That's just how strength coaches' minds work. But the key was they still came in and got a workout in, and it's still going to yield benefits for them. And so I'd say the biggest thing, and it took me a while to really see that, because I was all about the programming and reading and the methodology. How does this fit? Is this going to be a good program? At the end of the day, it's all crap if they're not even showing up. What really matters is building a positive environment and building those relationships. And it took me a while to really see the value in that putting the programming and all the stuff you're reading and learning and studying and how to implement it in a program is last to building a relationship with your athlete or your client. So that took a while. I wish I would have known that more from the beginning. Right? I would have probably kept more clients at the beginning that wanted to stick around longer. Right. Instead of just being coaching and this and, every little thing.
So what I'm hearing you saying, or do you think that it's safe to say, yes, you're coming with your knowledge and your base skill set, but a strength coach can also be part mentor, part psychologist, part parent? I mean, right? Like
100%.
So you can't just come into this profession thinking like, I know all my muscles and all my motor development and everybody's going to listen to me. Like you said, like anybody can spew out that data and name the bones and name the muscles. But if you're not, if you don't have that charisma and or relating to people in a different way, You're going to
Yeah,
be more than just a strength coach, right? A strength coach
kids
is going to
don't
be
care about that.
right.
They don't care. Hey, do you know what your bicep femoris is? The kid doesn't care. Kids care less what that is. They don't care about how you can talk and all this, how sciencey and knowledgeable you sound. They don't care at all. And so, yeah, you see it very, very often from new students just coming out of school trying to just talk and be so knowledgeable and try to show that they know all this stuff in a textbook and they're really smart. But my question is, can you coach? Can you interact with a kid every single day and get them to put a smile on their face and work hard? Can you do that? You can't learn that in a textbook.
Right.
So all that knowledge and all that goes out the window if you can't run a fun with high intensity session. It doesn't matter what you know and what you write on a piece of paper for kids to do.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing, and that's what I see a lot of new strength coaches, even like myself when I came out. It doesn't matter what you know. You obviously graduated with a degree. You know your stuff.
Right.
You have a certification. You know it. Can you apply it?
Right.
So
yeah,
that's the biggest thing.
Good. Well, let's pretend that you're in the interviewing seat and some Concordia students are coming to you and they want full-time or part-time work, and you have 2 students that are similar with degrees and everything else. Like, what is going to make that one stand out? Like, what's going to make you hire one over the other? What is something that somebody should embody that's gonna catch the attention of a hiring manager? Because if there's 5 people applying for the job, minus the charisma, or the charisma can be in there as well, but like, what's going to put them up that extra half step?
Well, I'd say 2 things. One, just being excited about what you're doing, like showing me that you want to work with kids and have fun every day. If you're coming into an interview and you're just, like, hey, you're trying to show off all this knowledge and this and that, but there's no like fire and drive, then that's going to kind of steer me off. The other thing too is having a why. I didn't have that right away coming out, but having a mission statement behind why do you want to do this, and really have a why that really gels with what it takes to be just a coach, like you said, a mentor, a parent to kids. That's what I want. This isn't just about strength and conditioning. If that's all you're looking to do, that's just personal training at the end of the day in a private sector. There's more to it. And I think one other thing is just showing that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. In this profession, there are so many hours and so much work that is going to be done, and you're not going to get paid for it. And it's just reality. I mean, there are so many things in my first 3 years at TC Boost that I just did, and there was no money from it. Whether it's giving free sessions to kids to get them in the door, to helping train a coach's session, and it's just not, you're just not going to do it. You're the one at the bottom of the totem pole. It's just how it is. You have to be able to have that work ethic. So seeing a resume of like, you really worked at many different places, interned a lot, shadowed, I want to see all of that. I want to see how many places you were willing to just go and do the work at. And that's the one reason I got the job at TC Boost after being an intern there, is I was there from sun up to sundown, worked my butt off, and I didn't care how much grunt work I did, because you got to start somewhere. And that's really, they don't just do that to be mean at times, or that's really what this profession's about. It really is a lot of work that you're not going to get compensated for. I still don't get paid for everything I do. All the programming and hours I do at home, I'm not getting compensated for that. But that's just the nature of the job, and that's the nature of strength and conditioning. When you have private sector, right? If I was training you, Jen, and you were my client, you're paying me to train you during that 1 hour session. You're not paying me to write all the programming and stuff leading up to it.
Right.
That's just what this profession is about. So I need to see that you are willing to just put your head down and work and get the job done at the end of the day. So experiences matter. Get out there. I volunteered as the assistant strength coach at Evanston for 6 months. And I was already working at TC Boost for 2-3 years. Like I had experience. I still volunteered my time. That's just what this profession that's what it takes. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm interviewing.
Good. I think it's very good for people to hear the truth about what they're getting into, and it's not going to be a 9-to-5 job.
No, it's not.
And not everybody loves that. Some people love the split shifts and the long days. And so if that's you, then it's going to fit right in. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally. Well, Zachary, I want to give you one other opportunity to share anything that you wish you would have been shared with you, or just any food for thought for students who are kinesiology or thinking about sitting for the CSCS or anything like that, that you might have any parting words of wisdom for them.
Take your time with the CSCS and don't get discouraged. Go for it. It's the best certification out there. It holds so much weight in our field. I can tell you that I knew students who were looking for grad assistant jobs at the collegiate level, and they weren't even given a interview because they didn't have their CSCS. It's the foot in the door. And so if there's something, go for it. Go for that CSCS or USAW. Get something. You need something. Your degree is not going to hold very much weight in this field coming out. And then the last thing I would say is be courageous to connect. I learned that quote from Jeremy Boone and from my mentor, Steve Breitenstein. And it means a lot. And what it means is don't be afraid to send emails. Don't be afraid to cold call and just ask, hey, can I come shadow you? Can I come intern for you? What advice do you have for me? Because at the end of the day, if they respond, awesome. If they respond no, you're at the same spot you started with before you sent the email. If they don't respond, you're still in the same spot you were before you sent the email. It doesn't matter. But in this field, no one's going to be calling you. No one's going to be looking for you. You have to fight tooth and nail, and you have to be courageous enough to do it. You can't be shy about it. So be courageous to connect. That stuck with me forever. I mean, that's how I met you, Jen. I mean, I emailed a million colleges saying, hey, I want to start an internship program. Half of them got back, half of them didn't. I'm 50-50. I'm 50%. But I wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't sent that email.
Right.
So be courageous to connect.
I love those words of wisdom. That's a perfect little snippet. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Zach. I appreciate your time today. And this will definitely be helpful for our students who are considering a profession this way, and they get a little glimpse into what they can expect.
I'm always here to help. Any of your students or any students out there watching this, look me up. I'll reach out and I'll connect with you at any time.